Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. And before we start, I just want to thank staff, Dr. Marzak especially for this incredible day. And I think he and I talked more in this one day than we've talked in months. And every time we talked, something changed. But he and our staff and teachers and students all had to roll with the flow. And I really just want you to know I appreciate it. And I know we've got some days ahead of us, so I'm going to let you tell the board what we've got ahead of us and how we're going to manage it.
Thank you, ma'am. And you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank staff as well. This is not an individual effort. This is a team effort. So thank you for being willing to pick up the phone on a second's notice today, and especially as you were pulled over on the side of the road on your way to Kroger's. So Chad Howell, she wasn't violating the law, or Mr. Sims, she was obeying the law. But no, the team, you know, we had to meet twice today for at least an hour each time. And I said, you need to drop everything and be there. And when I came in the room, they were there. And they were ready to talk. In fact, the prepared statement that we had for the press conference at 2 o'clock today, that was a team effort combined collectively, what looks good, what doesn't look good, what needs to be put in, what needs to be pulled out. They did a great job of triaging that, so I'd be remiss if I didn't thank staff as well. They did a great job. So here's where we are. So obviously, if you read the Monday memo this morning, that changed from the time it went out at 6:30 in the morning till when the governor made his announcement around 7:30 or 8 o'clock. This morning. The school district is now effectively closed beginning tomorrow through April the 13th. Eric Perriman is working with Brian Parkhurst to come up with a meals pickup schedule. We definitely don't want people in cafeterias congregating. We don't want students in schools because we're going to be going through the cleaning process with ABM and SMS. So they're going to be doing a deep cleaning of all of our buildings. So we're going to have pickup sites at various times throughout the course of the week. We'll be getting all of that information out on social media, call-outs through the website. I'm going to be going on the radio multiple times throughout the next couple of weeks, every single week. I talked to the station manager today. He said, the radio station is at your disposal. Whenever you need to be on, just come and we'll put you on. So we're going to be getting that information out as well. I'm also starting to coordinate with some of our inter-county agencies. I'm going to have a conversation with Hospitats tomorrow where we're going to talk about what can we do to help out Murray Regional healthcare workers who now have to find a way to have child care for their children for the next 4 weeks. I've had some conversations with Mike Aaron at General Motors. I'm also talking with Kimberly Ladd with the Murray County Prevention Coalition. There's going to be some things that we're going to have to do as our community is really inconvenienced for the next 4 weeks. But like I said today, failure is not an option, and we will get through this. And we will work together in a coordinated, strategic, and targeted fashion in order to make sure that our community comes out better on the back end of this. Eric, if you can talk a little bit about the cleaning from ABM and SMS.
Yeah, we are actually meeting with both companies in the morning. We've set meetings to meet with them and talk about our schedule from now until April 13th, what our expectations are, and with the buildings empty, really just what we expect them to do. So I've talked to both companies today, and we have that set up for Mr. Hall and I meet with them in the morning. We've also talked about additional things that aren't necessarily in their contract, such as keyboards and different pieces of equipment that our students and our teachers would come into contact with. And we're looking at options on maybe some of our staff that's not working, some of our hourly staff that could possibly come in and help with that if we deem it necessary. So we're going to work on that over the next few days. We feel like we will have lunches on Wednesday. That was the last thing I heard from Mr. Parkhurst today. We have 13 sites that qualify as non-school time sites, and the way you qualify is you have a 50% free and reduced rate. We think we're going to serve at all 13, and we think that's just the best way to do it. Instead of sending people, you have to get to here or there. Probably our biggest challenge is our only site in the northern part of the county that qualifies as Spring Hill High School, so all of Spring Hill will be served from Spring Hill High School. And we're working on the process that we will have. What most folks are looking at, since we can't have a cafeteria-style meal, is that we will have some sort of drive-through process to where you pull up, we verify, we have to, according to the state, verify that there's a student, a child of 18 or younger. It doesn't have to be a student, but we verify there's a child of 18 or younger, and then we can provide them 2 meals for that day. So we will do that, and we're working on that process right now. And hopefully by tomorrow we will have information out, and we will start serving on Wednesday.
Who had? I do. Yeah, okay.
Do you need volunteers?
We probably will, and we're gonna work through that tomorrow. They were spending tonight. The state has still been reaching out for some waivers too, just cleared this afternoon on how we can do some things, because we're so tied to federal funds that we're trying to figure out exactly how that process will look. But we may reach out to folks for some waivers. The other challenge that we have on food services is that our Cisco distribution center in Nashville got blown away. So our food right now is actually coming out of Alabama, and we're not able to control the order. So sometimes we're just getting what we get, so they're still working through that. But yes, we will reach out, and we're probably gonna serve in Mount Pleasant only at the middle school. Although all three qualify, we'll just have one place there.
Well, if you need help in Mount Pleasant, let me know, because I've had a lot of people contact me and say, how can I help? And they're willing to volunteer. So
Okay.
if you need those volunteers, let me know for there, and, I'm sure they can go other places too, but just let me know.
And we greatly appreciate that. We hope to get that out as soon in the day tomorrow as we can.
Dr. Marzak?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Morency. Yes, over the next 4 weeks, I imagine we're gonna need a lot of volunteerism at various times. So one of the things that I've put out is just pay attention to social media, the website, call-outs. We will try to get out volunteer information as we can and as it becomes available. What I've seen from this community is when we ask, they step up, whether it's monetarily or in person. Also, central office, the front desk will be open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. only. We will be rotating out personnel, and that's only for the lobby area. One of the concerns that we had that Dr. Woodard brought up that I wasn't even thinking of, is students have to come down to get verification of enrollment to be able to qualify for a driver's license. And so we'll have front office man desk, and we're all working. We may not be on site every day, but we're all working. And so the front desk will be able to have contact information for all of us to get us on a moment's notice if there's a specific concern that somebody brings in or somebody brings to the central office. And that's it.
Any other questions? Mr. Fulbright?
Thank you very much. Just two concerns that have come up revolving around this. I'm assuming that the decision was made after a meeting early this morning in consultation with Mayor Ogles and Mayor Mulder, and obviously in the governor's opinion. Here's my concern. We found out about this at a certain time, and then there was this press conference that was called multiple hours later, which would have been multiple hours that I know many families that I'm aware of could have been using to secure childcare. So I'm concerned about the delay, and I'm not saying that that's your issue, I'm just voicing a frustration at this point, that we had to go through this spectacle of a news conference or press conference or whatever, the assembled Murray County media, and we're not getting things out timely. That's my concern with this, and I'm not saying that that's your issue to deal with. I'm just saying that would be something I would say to all three people involved in that. So I do want to make sure that we're getting information out in a more than timely manner, very expedited manner. The other thing, just like to ask, are we good on our cleaning supplies and soap and toilet paper? Because I've actually heard last week and this weekend, that Central High School hasn't had soap in the bathrooms for quite a while. It's kind of hard to be teaching kids to wash their hands when there's no soap in the bathrooms. And I know personally I've seen 4 or 5 water fountains that don't work. So I'm concerned about what we're doing as far as stocking and cleaning supplies that we may be running short of. Can you speak to that?
I can. We are good on those supplies. Our contracts with both of our cleaning companies are for them to provide those in the bathrooms and in the different areas. We went as far last week as to buying additional that the district purchased that we don't normally do, handing out. We had a plan today to actually start buying soap, and we met with both companies this morning and told them if they needed assistance with maintenance, fixing dispensers, that we would do that. One of the big issues we have at Central High School is you put a dispenser up, they tear it down.
Well, these are just empty. They're not down. They're empty.
But one of the things that we run into also is you go in and you push it, and we have students that go in and push it and run the entire thing out. I'm not saying that's the issue every time, but we have issues with the design of those restrooms. They have doors, and you can close them, and they're in there. And that's not an excuse, that's a challenge we face, that's a challenge we've talked to both companies about across the district. We've had issues at Mount Pleasant High School, keeping dispensers on the wall, keeping those types of things up. We have talked to them, addressed that with them, and we will have a plan moving forward. We actually met with a company this morning out of Culleoka that we've been buying some product through. We had a really hard time this last week actually obtaining, products. In fact, we were told this morning that the raw materials necessary to make those wipes have been tapped out, and they won't be able to really refurbish those until the summertime this year. And so we scrambled. We ended up finding a company in Culleoka that does a probiotic, natural-based cleaner, and we've been working through them, had a lengthy meeting with them this morning moving forward to try to make sure we have, supplies. And we will make sure that in those buildings specifically where we've had issues, that we will put some diligence on that. We even talked this morning as far as if that's an issue at Central High School. You know, we've talked to other districts where they say is they lock down certain bathrooms and they don't make them available. They limit the number of bathrooms and then they have students sign in and out until we can actually, control the behavior in the restrooms themselves. But as far as the fixtures being full, we've talked to both companies and that should happen moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Ma'am?
Dr. Marzak?
If you don't mind. Okay, so, Mr. Fulbot, just to be sure that I heard you, sir, frustration, delay between the time of the notice and the press conference. So if that's what I think you're getting at. So I kind of want to address that for a little bit. In fact, Ms. Kinzer and I were on the phone before I was to walk in at executive when we were talking about the delay of the time when the governor then sent the message that he encouraged all schools to close. What happened between 12 and noon was the executive team's orchestration of making sure we had all of our information correct before we started to get things out. At 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, there was a webinar hosted by the Tennessee Department of Education to give us further information on the information that we were giving out to make sure that what we had was lockstep in what the state was putting out as well. So between those events, that created a little bit of a breakdown between 10 a.m. and then 1:45, I think, when I emailed you guys to give you the information before I hopped on the press conference and you weren't hearing it fresh without first hearing it from me. So
They heard it from me at 12:05.
Gotcha.
I called everybody at 12:05.
Would have loved to have that window of opportunity again, Michael Fulbright, like you said, shorter, especially for parents who are going to be scrambling for childcare now. But I think the fact that we were able to do it from 10 a.m. to about 1:45 is kind of a testament to the team and the way we kind of dug in and kind of got the work done as best we possibly could in the short time we had. But thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I was at Withorn around 1 o'clock delivering stuff, and they knew about it then, so I would assume the word was out. Didn't really look on Facebook or anything like that, but everything happened really quickly, I'll have to say. But anyway, let's move on. I did ask that we kind of abbreviate as many things as possible. There's a pretty full work session and all things, so let's just move on to the first item, and that's the finance, Mr. Conan. Commission didn't meet tonight? They are. Okay. Well, thank you for being here. Yeah, Schiffer's about to leave. Okay. Anything, we got budget amendments, we've got, the monthly financials.
The budget amendments, the majority of all of these can be described in three ways. We've got cleanup budget amendments, just moving items from one line item to another. Federal line items, for CTE and SPED that are cleanup, and then cleaning supplies that were purchased, and moving budget to be able to cover those costs. So that explains the budget amendments.
Okay, on the monthly financials, I think we all have to be aware that our revenue is gonna be, impacted negatively from all this, sales tax and all that, maybe?
Well, not necessarily. I think economy-wise in our county, yes.
Yeah.
But as far as our expenditures, we can see a slight drop in that. But at the same time, you can see on the financials that we're at the best spot of the year. Everything looks pretty right now. We just got all of our property tax, sales tax is beating its projection, so things look really good. But in these upcoming months in which places are open, but, we're still gonna get our BEP revenue. So it's not as bad as summer months can be, but we will take a little hit, but we'll also lose a little bit in cost, so.
Are there any questions about the financials? Okay, moving on, the sales tax referendum, what's next?
So, what the resolution states, and, I just found that in my drafts, I was supposed to send it at the same time, when I sent the other email to Dr. Marzak for the board, for this agenda, but I just sent the resolution to the board once I found it in my drafts. But this is going to bring in $3.6 million in additional revenue that can be used to pay towards current school indebtedness or future capital projects for schools that require borrowing. So, that is what the funds are accessible for. We have to contact and go by what the Department of Revenue can do. The resolution says within 30 days in the first day of the month following or later, from what the resolution says. So that would have put it, if we get a verified vote tonight, it would put it to be able to start May 1st. But the Department of Revenue, which is a state body, they usually give businesses and, taxpayers time to adjust, and that's usually a 90-day period, but we've been working with them to try to get it in faster. Now, with a lot of the employees being out due to COVID-19, this could be delayed a little bit longer. So what I'm looking at right now, they think you're being a little facetious going after the May 1st date, so that it's more like a 6/1 or 7/1 date for that new sales tax to start bringing in revenue. Once we get our verified vote from the Election Commission tonight, they met today. We'll get the verified vote, we'll send that to the Department of Revenue, and then they'll give us an estimate on how long it will take, and then all of the businesses will adjust their POS systems, and then the state will adjust the TNTAP software for filing sales tax. And then we'll be able to start running. It just depends on how long it takes the Department of Revenue to move.
And how will it be handled? Just the same coming into
So
in the 141?
So right now, what would happen in the new budget year is that property taxes would be adjusted so that maintenance of effort is not affected. You would not see additional revenue in your operating budget. Your operating budget revenue would be the same with just whatever the increase is for property taxes and BEP. But that revenue would flow into the 151 fund so that if this body passed a capital project, that those funds were accessible if this body wanted to do it and the commission approved it, to be able to borrow the funds to do projects. Or it would roll in there and currently pay for projects that we've already got rolling that is already accumulated debt. So your Battle Creek schools, your Central High School that we're paying on for the next 15 to 20 years.
It's concerning to hear you say that, because I know that this was sold to Murray County residents as a way in which to build the needed schools and maintenance on our schools, and that's what it would go for. And I was at something on Saturday, and someone came up and congratulated me or the school board and the system that we're going to be able to do these projects. I voted for it, and I'm with the county commissioner who said, no, not until you pay your debt. So that's very concerning to me. Go.
And not really in response or in defense of, but and I'm not really giving a recommendation. But what this revenue does is it does increase debt capacity to be able to borrow safely. And, so if those are projects that are desired by the board, I guess it's a good time to send them, because the potential funding in the future is later, and it'll be there.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Mr. Moore?
So two things. I thank you for the update on that. I just want to clarify. I know this was kind of awkward as far as the sales tax referendum was concerned on the school board side. Again, I want to remind the public or anyone that's watching this, we had no control over that as a school board. It was not an action taken by this board. It was an action taken by the county commission. And functionally, and what I've maintained from day one, is we are still as a board making the same decisions we have been, based on the same criteria, what's best for the students, and we're going to continue to do that. What this does is basically allows for some funding by our funding body to tap into, to use were we to make certain requests as a body. So I just want to make sure people are clear on that. I know there was a lot of confusion about who did this, but again, we are business as usual on this side. We're gonna continue to make those decisions, what we feel like is best for the school system. To go with that, Dr. Marzak, I had actually asked earlier, and I know if you go back and look at when this was put into place in Williamson County, I know that there was an agreement that was signed. I guess it would have been the mayor of Williamson County sent out a letter that was requesting that all of the municipalities in the county, when this was put into place for them, they would give up their portion. I know that was some other confusion that was put in place here, that there was some, and one of you guys may want to address the numbers on that, but there's a split in this. Not all of this money actually goes to the schools. Some of it actually goes to the local municipality or the county itself. Dr. Marzak, I had asked you if there is already an agreement in place for Williamson County and Spring Hill to forego their portion for at least, I believe it's 3 years, to give it to the school system in its entirety. So the school system's not just getting their 0.25%, they would be getting the 0.25% that goes to the Spring Hill City as well. Is that something we've approached with Spring Hill City and or the other municipalities in the county to try to see if they would be willing to forego that? 'Cause in my opinion, based on the wording of the resolution, I think it left a lot of voters with the impression that all of this money was going to be going towards these school projects. And I think it's at least worth our mayor or our county commission reaching out to these other municipalities and seeing if that's something they would go with.
Marzak?
Yes, thank you. And initially upon that, reach out to Mr. Wolliver to begin to lay the groundwork with the attorneys of each of those municipalities. So, Mr. Wolliver, if you will.
City of Spring Hill, since they've already passed theirs, I understand Mayor Ogles is supposed to appear, and for that very reason, to start that process. I asked the city attorney for Spring Hill to let us know when that was gonna take place, in case you guys wanted me, or one of you wanted to appear also to answer questions, just be present. As far as the others, I've asked, but being that that's more of a political issue than maybe a legal one, it may not be a bad idea for you guys to follow up also and try to put a little pressure on those city mayors.
Okay, we have not been in contact with the city or Mount Pleasant. Okay, Dr. Marzak.
So, Mr. Wolliver, would it be prudent for the board to craft a joint letter that they then sign, which is kind of laying out, detailing what they would like to request from each of the municipalities, and then I could deliver that letter to each of the mayors? Would that be prudent?
Doesn't hurt to ask, yeah. Might be a good way to put that out there.
Okay, so, Madam Chair, if you're amenable, Mr. Wolliver and I can work on a letter. We can send it to you if you get the board members to look at it, and we can go from there.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, any other, excuse me? Oh, Doug.
So the way it's done right now, I feel like there's a lot of confusion. This will, as it sits, generate that $3.6 million as was put out there. But I think what was missed is that, well, that doesn't mean that the cities don't get more, because they will be getting more sales tax revenue. And there's language, I can't remember off the top of my head where it is right now, that they give half of their sales tax revenue to the school board, and then the county gives 3/4 of their sales tax revenue to the school board. So that revenue comes in. The state has to attribute that sale and that tax to that area based on where that sale occurs. So if it happens within the city of Columbia, you can't just say, well, we passed the referendum, we get it. You can't do that, because that sale still happened in the city of Columbia. But what you can do is work on that local agreement. It says they have to give at least half, but nothing says that they can't give more. And so that's why it would be beneficial to say, hey, could we do a 60-40 on what you currently give, and maybe negotiate from there, and I'll leave that to you guys. But where that sale occurs, the Department of Revenue will allocate those funds to the municipalities in the county, and then they give their portion to the school district, and that's how the school district Board of Education receives that revenue. We get it from the county and municipalities after the state has taken their admin fee and divvied it out to where those sales tax took place. So I just wanted to clarify that, that's all.
Just a real quick question, was it 3.6 million you referenced? Is that before or after that split?
That's after that split.
So okay, so that's already taken into account the part that's going back to the cities?
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
And just to repeat again, I mean, my logic on this is pretty simple. Spring Hill has already agreed to do this on the Williamson County side. I think it would be just right in line with what they've already done to agree to do this on the Murray County side. And if I'm gonna ask Spring Hill to do that, I'm gonna ask the other municipalities to do the same thing. That's kind of my chain of events on that, so that's where I would be looking to do that. So, Dr. Marzak, I appreciate you offering to kind of put something together. Do you think we could have something like that before our next full meeting?
Probably this week, right, Mr. Williver?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if we could get that, that would be great to at least be able to
And
consider
I
something
think Jake
quickly.
has been on this, 'cause we had a conversation about it prior to where he had talked to,
Okay.
The attorney and
Great.
talked to Spring Hill, and I think they are amenable. I don't,
Okay.
the others, the city ones are the ones we
And as
need.
far as the board, if it comes out that we need to support that in some way, you know, please let us know how we can assist with that. Again, I think this is only a fair way to go since it's already got a precedence in place.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, then we will move on to surplus or capital assets. Excuse me, removal of capital.
Did y'all vote on the budget amendments?
We
Or
can't.
pass them to consent? Okay, 'cause it's a work session.
We're gonna put them in consent.
Okay.
Do any of you object to that? All right. Excuse me, and the financials as well, and your discussion is just a discussion, so no action on that. Capital assets.
So there's, as we keep uncovering, you know, pulling up rocks, we find things. There was inventory on the books that wasn't there anymore. So once we discover that, we know that we have to surplus it and say that we don't have this inventory anymore. So that's what this is.
Any discussion about that? So we'll put that on consent. Okay, and that's all on finance, so let's move on to zoning and facilities. Mr. Perriman, you're up.
Yes, ma'am. We've got projects listed that we just need to go ahead and move forward with, asking for approval in trying to get these scheduled for the summertime. When we were asked today if there's are things that we can put off, these are things that we felt like we can't, because if we don't, the contractors that will be performing this work may not be able to do it over the summer. It may push it back into the fall of next year, and we can go through those one by one, or I can answer questions over any of them that you have.
I don't know if you've had a chance, Mr. Moore? Okay. I looked them over, and I don't know of any, but each of you have a chance to look at it just for a minute and be sure, 'cause there's quite a few here. And that includes, there's a septic tank, repair and expansion as well, which we discussed, but we didn't bring it back to the last board
Yes,
meeting.
ma'am, and we actually have an actual GMP from Hewlett Spencer on that. And we will go ahead, once we get through the board meeting, we will begin work on that immediately in preparation to get to the summer. It'll continue through the summer, but we have to start pretty immediately.
Okay. Any other discussion as you look at these? Then we'll put them all on consent. If you see any of it that you want to pull out when we have the board meeting, we can do that. Next is policies. Actually, the first thing there is that 4.602. You know, the students came to us from Spring Hill, made a really good presentation, put a lot of time and effort and energy into an alternate idea, okay? And I didn't want to dismiss that. And actually Kristen asked to be, for the discussion as well. And I don't really know whether that's the way to go, but I just wanted to, give you all an opportunity, and I honestly left without all of those papers in front of me, but what I think they wanted to do was the GMP, I've been doing this too long now. So that they would use their grade point average rather than a number. Is that the way I remember it? Do you know? And I didn't bring it with me, I'm sorry. Dr.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. They want to do a weighted scale. Some districts like Williamson County are doing that, where it's measured on a 5.0 and you get, more points for taking advanced courses. And so, it's something that we can consider. If you all want to look at that, I can bring you something on it if you would like to move in that direction.
Well, I would only want you to bring it if you feel like that would be something we need to do, or staying with what we have right now. I just felt like they had given some time and thought to it, and I know the young man, or it was a young man, wasn't it?
That's correct.
he had taken 9 AP classes at his other school, and as you know, that's 5 points on your grade point. And it's hard to say that things are apples to apples, you know, even though AP classes at one school, and you know, it is a difficult call, but it's come up before, someone moving in and, all of that. So I think we made the right call in just, you know, confirming our policy, but I don't know if any of you all feel there's any need to look at it in any other way. I just wanted to give some discussion of it. Mr. Fulbright.
Yeah, sorry, I keep turning my light on. How would this factor in with the Collegiate Academy? Would that be treated the same as honors classes, or how, is there anything been done differently as far as grade point average goes with the Collegiate Academy now in place at Columbia Central?
No, it would not be different. We actually figure our rank, class rank based on cumulative course average. And so, in our academic progression manual, that's one of the things we talked about, that you're gonna reach a point when you use cumulative course average that, several kids could have a repeating decimal and you can come out to a tie. You get these ties. And so we found some ties this year because of that. And so now we're thinking maybe we need to go to GPA because at cumulative course average, we're seeing some things that are, a little sticky. So to answer your question, no, it would not be a factor there. But GPA may be something we want to do in the future. But right now we use cumulative course average as the deciding factor that ranks the top 10.
I don't, and Collegiate Academy has nothing to do with it. Courses is what makes those 5-point, 3-point, that.
Correct.
But when you're talking about a weighted scale, there is a differentiation then between a regular class and an honors class on a weighted scale, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if I took a regular algebra class and somebody else took a honors algebra class, they made a B, I made an A, I still have the higher grade point average then, correct?
You're gonna get more points
Okay.
than you would in a standard scale. On a standard 4.0 scale, you get more points for honors and for advanced placement courses.
Okay, so I guess my simple question then I should have started with, do we do anything extra as far as grade point average figuration or course average figuration when it comes to graduation rankings for regular class, honors class, Collegiate Academy?
We give the standard points. You get 3 points for honors. You get 5 points for the advanced placement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion? I just felt like it's something we needed to just maybe wrap our heads around just a little bit, maybe not in the future. Okay, where am I? Let me move down here, I know it. Next is 2.804. Are these things that came from you? Okay, so 2.804, 2.902, both are financial management policies. Any discussion about those? Anyone? Not that it would make any difference, but. Okay, it almost has to be consent. But no discussion here. Final adoption, I don't think there are any policies for final adoption, or posting of proposed policies. Is there any of those? Nope. Okay, then we are ready for surplus book donation to Murray County. Dr. Marzak?
Yes, ma'am, thank you, that's me. A part of Leadership Murray, and we took a tour of the jail and noticed that they have hardly any books on their shelves. And so we started talking about, is it possible to do a book donation? And I know that we have a surplus book portable at the maintenance office. So grabbed a couple ladies, we went over there a couple Fridays ago just to see, are there any books that you want? And so we kind of dug through the piles and we actually found books that would be beneficial to inmates at the jail. So you will see attached a list of books, and if it's acceptable with you, I'd like to take those books and have them donated to the jail. Thank you. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the Virtual Academy of Murray County, and
Yes. Call Miss Luema McWilliams up to the microphone, please,
Yes,
if she'd
ma'am.
come on down.
please do.
So, you know, when we were at the Tennessee School Boards Academy a year ago, November, one of the things that was talked about there was the possibility of a virtual academy, an online school, if you will. Came back throughout the idea. Mr. Lang's worked on a little bit, Ms. McWilliams has worked on a little bit, and so we have for you a proposal that has to be submitted to the Tennessee Department of Education by May 1st in order to be up and running by July 1. So Ms. McWilliams has put a lot of work and effort into this, so she'd like to give you just a brief overview of what it would entail, but we could have a virtual school up and running conceivably by July 1.
The virtual school would be a grade 7 through 12, and it would be an alternative for our homeschool kids. So this will be a way for us to grab the homeschool kids in our community and actually get them into Maury County through the virtual. And Virtual Academy is the classes are all online, which is what your homeschool kids are doing already. And then we would receive the funding and things for those students to attend our virtual school versus some of the other virtual academies that are out there. With the first 7 to 10 kids that enrolled, that would take care of the funding of the virtual school. Anything beyond that would be revenue generated that we could therefore use to, pay for our Edgenuity subscription or whatever you saw fit to use with those funds. It would be grades 7 through 12, and we get a lot of students, and I get a lot of them at Northfield that have been homeschooled up until their senior year, and then they want a real high school diploma, so they come and enroll with us, and they're not ready. So if we can catch them early, we're going to start with 7 through 12, and then as it grows, we could go down to lower grades from there, but that's a good starting point. Otherwise, we get students that enroll with us senior year, and we can't get them graduated. So this is a good way and a good thing that would, for us to pull those kids in and go ahead and get them started.
In addition, as the Virtual Academy starts to get small wins and hit small milestones, it can then push out further beyond Maury County. We could offer the opportunity to kids in Giles, Marshall, Lewis, Lincoln, Tullahoma, Clarksville, Nashville, and other students in other parts of the state can start to access. We would then capture that basic education, that BEP revenue, if you will. Ms. McWilliams throughout the program has offered opportunities. If kids need to come in and get face-to-face help, they can. And so that would be also, we could possibly look at virtual opportunities down the road as the academy continues to grow. But with starting off small, sometimes you got to crawl to run. Starting off small, targeting this towards homeschool children in Maury County is a definite good first step.
Another thing we do is if you have students that move into the county, and let's say they come to Hampshire Unit School, and they were in the middle of taking Chinese, well, they could be partially enrolled. We could get them in the virtual to finish that rather than them having to start over with a new foreign language. Or if they were in the middle of a course, sometimes parents move mid-semester. We can get them in and get them finished so they don't lose credits by parents moving. So another positive for us to do that.
I would like Ms. Morency.
Can they graduate with a Maury County diploma?
Yes, regular high school diploma, Maury County, yes.
With this
State of
virtual?
Tennessee. Yes.
Okay, so, if I'm a homeschool parent, and I've been homeschooling my child since 3rd grade, and they're going into 7th, why would I choose this over what I've been doing?
Well, it gets, in elementary, the way that the homeschools are set up, the elementary, middle, and high schools are different curriculum. And in order to receive a high school diploma, the elementary and middle school, they have free homeschooling out there. But for high school, to get a regular high school diploma, you have to pay. And so when they get to that point, they come to us because public school is free. So the reason we would like to start with middle school is to get them used to it and get some skill base before they jump into high school.
So this would be free for a parent?
It's completely free.
Okay, so it's free, and they can graduate with
A regular Tennessee high school diploma.
Tennessee high school diploma.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's talk about cost. No cost.
No cost. Until we
That's my favorite,
we can function no cost. We may have to have more staff if it were to grow,
Okay,
but currently we can function with the staff that we have.
okay, so once we, if we approve this, then you'll be able to start May the 1st?
we have to submit an application to the
Okay.
state by May first.
Okay. Do you think you can fill it with 7 to 10 students pretty quickly? Are you gonna have to go out and kind of recruit them, or it's right here at the end of the year, or?
It'll take a little time, we're hoping, I mean, we just need 7 for the year.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need 7, I mean, we just needed 7 for the year to start with. And I think once it gets started,
Uh-huh.
and it, and we see a little success here and there, that it'll spread, and we can promote it and get it out there. The first question, the application is 18 pages, and each of those 18 pages, you have to submit how you're gonna do it.
Mhm.
And the very first part says, has your local, Board of Education approved it? So, we need to get it approved. We can't, even go forward with the application until there's an approval.
Mr. Moore?
Okay, I'm gonna kind of steal this for a minute and go with something else. I mean, this is something, as I've looked at the issues we've dealt with in terms of growth, in terms of how expensive it is to have facilities, I personally think that this is a direction that all of our school systems need to be moving anyway. I call it more of a hybrid model of being able to offer things that are not gonna add the insane cost of facilities and are still gonna be able to serve our community members in a multitude of ways. I think as we move forward, we're gonna go the same direction colleges have gone, which is a lot of online type courses. And I think offering this really puts us in a good place to serve our community. And frankly, we're not having to build new schools if more people start taking this. And I really think a lot of people that are in the homeschool community, I know I've had a lot of, with the new Battle Creek schools in my area, I've had a lot of people say, hey, what's going on here? We're homeschool students, but we're looking for other options. And this is something I would love to be able to say, hey, welcome to the Maury County community. If you don't wanna, if you're not ready to commit to a school building, because that's just not what you're looking for, maybe that's not what is a good fit for your child, this is another option to get them in and still be able to make sure we are serving our community members, and I love that idea. And I would hope that we not only approve this, I would hope we as a school system start to really embrace the opportunities that this really brings us to be able to expand what we are able to offer at a less expensive way, and really kind of meet every child wherever they need to be. The more I've realized in talking to various, and I know, Dr. Woodard, you've talked about this, about conversations you guys had, on Dr. Lang, you've had it too, about people that don't know what to do next. They're not happy with the school building they're in, or maybe certain circumstances, and they want something else. They're not ready to go out, and you've talked to them, they're not ready to go out and do this on their own. And I love that if we could offer this, an in-between that still keeps them in, and we're able to help make sure they get what they need, but yet, they're able to feel satisfied that they're getting what they want's best for their child. And I really hope we as a county can embrace this and get 100% behind it, not just consider it as an add-on program, but really consider it part of what we're able to offer.
Okay, any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry.
We know how old you are.
I know.
No, I think I'll call him Mr. Rex. Go ahead. I just have, did you call on me? Yeah. Okay. I just have one more question. Could students that are attending the high school, for instance, I know that Mount Pleasant, High School could not find a Spanish teacher. Would students that want to take Spanish be able to take Spanish on here and eliminate that need for a teacher and even with our class sizes, if we have a subject that at our smaller schools that don't have the number of kids, like maybe only 10 or 15 kids for a class, could they possibly take it here and eliminate the need for a teacher?
Absolutely.
Mr. Beaver?
Thank you, ma'am. I guess, Mr. Moore, he hit on a lot of what I was thinking, but have y'all had any discussion with the, homeschool groups here in Maury County, and what kind of feedback you've got from them?
I've not had discussion with the groups, just individuals, just to see if there might be an interest. But I didn't want to go out into the community too much until the board was on track with it, because if I did that, then, but just with a few individuals that I personally know that do the homeschool, but not out into the community yet. I wouldn't do that without board approval first.
Mr. Howe?
Well, I, for one, am very excited. I've had conversations with Dr. Marzak and Dr. Woodard both about this. From the moment I heard about it about a year and a half ago or so when I was in a conference, TSBA conference in Nashville, and it excited me. And then I came back and we talked about it, and then the numbers were presented to me a little bit about, we don't need a lot to make this up and going, and then beyond that, it generates revenue. So I'm extremely excited about it. I like that it can offer a platform across all of our schools. So it makes it more equitable to all of our schools to offer more things. And I'm excited that Ms. McWilliams will be in charge of that. I've had experience with her. She was a teacher of mine in high school back in Peleoka a long time ago. So I know that she'll get the job done. She's tough and she's fair.
And she needs more to do.
And she needs more to do, right. So, but I hope that it grows to where she can get the resources she needs to make sure that this is a success.
Okay, thank you. So I assume that we're gonna put this on consent. Okay? All right. Other business is some bids here. Huh? What did she say? Now, we've had enough discussion about age today. Dr. Woodard, Matlock Clement's payment for school audit. Any discussion of that? Any board members have a question about that? Title I, purchase of Chromebooks for Maury County, Mount Pleasant Middle School. Mr. Moore?
So, and this is gonna tie into some discussions we had actually had at the technology diploma meeting. What I would like moving forward, is to take a step back and kind of take a bigger look at devices in our schools. I know one of the struggles we had as we were talking about these at the formerly, is it still diploma? I don't know. Technology integration, okay. One of the things that we had talked about has been balancing what devices are what school based on title funds, and how individual schools had kind of purchased various devices. Some schools are very device rich in terms of they have just a flood of devices, and other schools have almost none. And again, I'm not trying to stop that as much as I think we need to take a bigger look at that as a district. And I really appreciate that these various principals and the buildings are deciding to supplement what they've got. However, I think we ought to look at what their individual funds should be used for, and I would rather see technology be something that is kind of district-wide looked at and handled on the district level, and those funds be used in other ways. And I'm not saying to stop that. I know we're kind of throwing that in the middle of this, and I'm not saying I want to vote against this. I just would rather, especially from this point forward, we really take a hard look at what individual schools are spending their money on, and I would prefer that it not be technology. I prefer technology be kind of district-driven, and we use those title funds, and I know there's a million other ways we can use them, but I would rather those title funds go to some other sources and let technology kind of be driven by a district plan and strategy rather than a piecemeal plan, which is, honestly, as we've had discussions on technology, it's been kind of very difficult to figure out what's where, what can be used, what can't be used, and it's kind of a piecemeal. I know for the IT department, it's been very difficult to manage all of those devices, because I know that's something we didn't talk about that is a very big point. When these devices are purchased with title funds are not purchasing or paying for the maintenance, the upkeep, the IT, trying to keep these devices running and connected to the network. So there are some costs that are not really covered by title funds that we're footing the bill for. So I would rather us use, again, those title funds for things that are not gonna have required price tags attached to them, and we have more district-wide policy.
Any other discussion about the Chromebooks? You're not saying not approve this, though, are you? No.
At this point, no, because we're kind of,
Okay.
this is a little late to the game, but
Yeah.
I would hope that from this point forward, that we really take a different look at that.
Okay. All right, so we'll put that on consent. And moving on to the sped purchase of PD from Creative Leadership. Ms. Ventura's here. Is there a question? No? No problem, so we put that on consent. Versatron's Transportation Management Solution System Extension.
This is just the renewal, but instead of doing the whole year, we were asked by the finance department to try to make as many renewals, come to date on July 1 as possible. So this is extending us from now through the end of June, and then we will renew next year, in July, and that way we are not doing different things all throughout the year. So we did what they asked us to do in this.
Mr. Dakota?
My purchasing department was recommended by audit in order to keep up with all of the contracts we have, make them the same term. And so we can go through and see June 30th, we know that everything's expiring and that we need to take a look at it. Or if it's a multi-year, we can take a look at it and see what year we're on, and really have a thumb on all of our contracts that are coming through and all of our bids.
I'm sorry I'm talking so not much tonight. I just wanna say, I appreciate that. It's something we've asked for years, just trying to get a hold of that. I just wanna say that I would hope that if there's if we have a thumb on those contracts, that we also have a thumb on the period we need to, as a board, to consider changing those contracts. Whatever that is, that would be great if we could get them all into June, and then we look at all of these things 5 or 6 months out, and we have good time to make decisions and kinda talk about these all at once. I just don't wanna get a contract, as we've done in the past, where we've got 30 days.
We will actually bring our renewals, to you next month for you to look at in July. So we were working on that list for this month, and then realized that last year, with the way we've changed meeting times, that we just pushed it to bringing it to you in April, but we'll bring it to you in advance.
Some renewals are just 1 year, and if that department head has experienced good quality, good prices, and they wanna continue, it keeps going. The multi-year agreements, in which we usually are guaranteed to be a bid process, those are things we usually send in January so that y'all have time to review and see what was coming through.
I mean, a good one would be, for example, cleaning services. We've talked about this in the past. If we were we talked about bringing it in-house, for example, we would need a considerable lead time for you guys to figure out what that looks like. You know, that's not something we decide 60 days out, ever. So that's kinda what we're looking at, but thank you for putting those in one easy place for us to find.
Speaking of uniforms, next on the agenda.
Yes, ma'am, this is just our maintenance staff. We are leaving the company we are with. We're currently with Aramark, and we have not had a very good, experience with them in both the materials that our staff is wearing and the, service that we've received through billing and different things. So we have opened this up. We talked to UniFirst, we talked to Centos, we had folks come in. Our maintenance guys have actually been modeling for the last couple of weeks, different versions of this. And, we landed on this, and feel like that this is the best option. We will also be putting our building operators that are housed within our schools. You know, we have one building operator for 2 schools. In lots of cases, unit schools have their own. They will be going into these uniforms as well, so that they are easily recognizable, and they're a much better quality and look much nicer than what we have now. So we're leaving. We've already notified Aramark that in June we are done with them, and we're just asking to pick this up in July.
I assume that would be consent as well. Excuse me, Mr. Atkinson.
Yeah, I'll say consent on that too, but be careful what's in price too. They're building, gotta watch them.
We've kind of found out with all 3 of the companies that we've talked to, so we really had some front-end conversation that was very direct, and, we're gonna do the best we can, so.
Yes, Ms. Morency.
Is there a difference in the, amount of the contract?
Yes, ma'am, there is, for 2 reasons. One, because we're adding the building operators, so we're increasing our staff size. And we went, 1 step above the basic uniform, and the reason that we did that was we were having huge issues with the quality of the, uniform that the gentlemen were wearing. We were running through materials, we were having to replace them and pay for replacements, and so we went 1 step. We didn't go crazy and get them something fabulous, but we did, buy a 1 step up uniform that is nicer.
What's the difference?
It's a better quality.
No, the amount.
The amount total is about $4,000 overall. We talked about when we budgeted this, we're gonna ask to budget that line at 20,000, because if we have employees leave and we have to bring in new materials, we have to purchase those, but this is the actual contract price if everyone stayed all year and there's no no bop up. Even when we went to Aramark, because it was a 5-year contract, when we discussed before we dropped them, this was about the same price range that it would have gone to, even if we'd renewed with them.
So this is the contract for next year?
Yes, ma'am. Starting we're asking to begin
So
this
you're
in.
asking us to approve it for 18,000, but you're saying you're gonna put 20 in the,
When we built our budget and
In the
talked to
budget.
Mr. Lucona, that line currently will not change overall because there are multiple contracts paid out of that line, and we can absorb the cost within the line without making the line go up.
okay, thank you.
But this singular item does increase within there.
Okay, thank you.
I assume we're on consent as well, so, that brings us to the end of the agenda you see, and if you had an opportunity to look at the agenda before tonight, you know that there were big, monumental, time-consuming, important issues that we needed to talk about. Right sizing, for our district, the cafeteria budget, and the capital project. So, I don't know what we're gonna look at with our meeting schedule going forward, but we know that that is something we're going to have to address at some point quickly. I know that the commission is not having any, other meetings, budget meetings, so everything's gonna have to kind of be pushed forward. But, we just felt like that this would be a better time to have a more brief discussion tonight, not as elongated discussion that we need to have. And by that time, we would know more about exactly how the funds are, more about it as well. Is there anything else anybody needs to say, do, or whatever? Okay, thank you all.